The stars burned red with the fires of war. Across 12 star systems, the Void Syndicate's massive ships tore through space like hungry beasts. Their biomechanical hulls gleamed with a sickly green light as they destroyed everything in their path. Admiral Taman stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display with growing horror. Red dots marked the positions of enemy ships. There were hundreds of them. Blue dots showed his own coalition fleet. Barely 50 ships remained from what had been a force of 300 just days ago. "Sir, the Horizon Dawn is reporting critical damage to their main engines," reported his communications officer. "They're requesting permission to retreat." Taman closed his eyes for a moment. The Horizon Dawn was one of their best cruisers. If they were asking to run, the situation was hopeless. "Granted," he said quietly. "Tell all remaining ships to fall back to defensive position, Charlie. We'll make our stand there." The bridge crew worked frantically at their stations. Warning lights flashed red across every surface. The air recyclers struggled to keep up with the smoke from overloaded systems. Through the main view screen, Taman watched as another coalition ship exploded in a ball of white fire. The Void Syndicate dreadnoughts moved forward like sharks sensing blood in the water. Their bioweapons fired streams of acid that ate through ship hulls in seconds. "How many civilians did we evacuate from the mining colonies?" Taman asked. "About 60%, sir. The rest?" His tactical officer's voice trailed off. Taman nodded grimly. "The rest were dead or worse, captured by the Syndicate to be turned into biofuel for their living ships." Far away, on a small asteroid mining station near the edge of Coalition space, Engineer Sora frowned at her sensor display. She had been monitoring deep space frequencies for signs of pirates when something unusual caught her attention. "That's strange," she muttered to herself. Her instruments showed quantum signatures coming from a region of space that should have been empty. The readings were unlike anything she had seen before. Highly organized patterns that suggested advanced technology. Sora checked her star charts. The signals were coming from the Sol system, where the primitive humans lived. But humans barely had chemical rockets according to the last Coalition survey. They couldn't possibly generate quantum signatures this complex. She ran the scans again, thinking her equipment might be malfunctioning. But the readings remained consistent. Something big was happening in human space. Something that defied everything the Coalition knew about Earth's technology level. Sora's communication panel beeped with an incoming priority message. She opened the channel and saw the face of Coalition High Command's duty officer. "All stations, this is Command Central. We are issuing a galaxy-wide call for assistance. The Void Syndicate invasion has overwhelmed our defensive lines. Any species or faction willing to provide aid should respond immediately. Repeat, this is a call for any and all assistance." Sora stared at the message. The Coalition was desperate if they were asking for help from anyone, even species they had previously dismissed as too primitive to matter. She looked back at her sensor readings from the Sol system. Could there be a connection? Were the humans somehow involved in what was happening? Meanwhile, at a Coalition intelligence outpost near the galactic core, Commander Jiho received fragments of intercepted communications. Most were standard military chatter. Damage reports, casualty lists, requests for reinforcements that would never come. But buried in the data stream were other signals. Encrypted transmissions using methods the Coalition had never seen before. The encryption was so advanced that their best computers couldn't even begin to crack it. "Where are these signals originating?" Jiho asked his analysis team. "That's the strange part, sir. They're coming from multiple points throughout the galaxy, but they all seem to be coordinating with something in the Sol system." Jiho pulled up a holographic map of the galaxy. Red zones marked areas under Syndicate control. Yellow zones showed active battlefields. Blue zones were still under Coalition protection, but there weren't many of those left, and there, in a small corner marked as primitive species, no strategic value, was the Sol system. "Pull up everything we have on the humans," Jiho ordered. The files were thin. Earth was listed as having a population of about 8 billion. Their technology was rated as barely space-capable. They had sent a few small exploration missions to nearby systems, but nothing that suggested military capability. Yet the encrypted signals suggested a level of coordination and technology that surpassed even Coalition standards. Jiho's communication panel chimed with an urgent message from Admiral Taman's fleet. The message was brief but shocking. "Request permission to investigate unusual readings in Sol system. Maybe our only hope. Back at the asteroid station, Sora made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. She opened a channel to Coalition Command. This is Mining Station Echo 7. I'm detecting massive quantum signatures from the Sol system. The humans may not be as primitive as we thought. The response came back within minutes. Echo 7, you are ordered to maintain continuous monitoring of Sol system quantum activity. Report any changes immediately. Sora nodded and adjusted her sensors for maximum sensitivity. Whatever was happening in human space, it was big enough to generate readings visible from hundreds of light years away. As she worked, alarms began sounding throughout Coalition space. The Void Syndicate was launching another major offensive. 3 more star systems fell in the space of an hour. Admiral Taemin's remaining ships fought desperately, but they were outnumbered 10-1. His fleet was down to 37 vessels, and half of those were badly damaged. "Sir," his sensor officer called out. "I'm picking up the same readings engineer Sora reported. Something massive just powered up in the Sol system." Taemin studied the long-range sensor data. The energy signature was enormous, bigger than anything the Coalition had ever built. It was as if an entire world had suddenly come online. "Set course for the Sol system," he ordered. "Maximum speed." "Sir, that will take us away from the main battle," his executive officer protested. "Look around, Commander. We've already lost the main battle. Our only chance now is to find out what the humans are hiding." As Taemin's battered fleet turned toward human space, similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Desperate Coalition commanders facing certain defeat began to converge on the one system that might hold answers. None of them knew that they were about to witness the emergence of something that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Earth's children had been watching and waiting, and now the time for hiding was almost over. Captain Wu Jin had seen many strange things in his 30 years of space service, but nothing had prepared him for what his sensors were showing him now. His Coalition cruiser Starfall drifted at the edge of the Sol system, its crew staring in disbelief at their displays. "Run the scan again," Wu Jin ordered his sensor officer. "Sir, I've run it 12 times. The readings are consistent. There's something huge out there hiding behind Jupiter." Wu Jin studied the tactical display. His long-range sensors showed a massive object, nearly 30 kilometers long, tucked into Jupiter's shadow. The energy signature was unlike anything in Coalition databases. It wasn't just big, it was impossibly advanced. "How could we have missed something that size?" asked his executive officer, Lieutenant Hana. "We didn't miss it," Wu Jin replied grimly. "It wasn't there before. Look at the temporal readings. This thing just appeared out of nowhere." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. No known technology could create something that large and then hide it from sensors. The humans were supposed to be barely capable of interplanetary flight. Yet something in their system was demonstrating technology beyond Coalition understanding. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," the communications officer announced. "From Earth?" "No, sir, from the object near Jupiter." Wu Jin felt his blood freeze. Whatever was out there knew they were watching. Put it on screen. The main display flickered and then showed the face of a human male. He appeared to be in his 40s with short black hair and calm, intelligent eyes. He wore a uniform that looked both familiar and alien, clearly military, but unlike any design the Coalition had seen. "Coalition vessel Starfall. This is Captain Del Su of the United Human Space Service ship Indomitable. We have been monitoring your approach." Wu Jin found his voice with some effort. "This is Captain Wu Jin of the Coalition cruiser Starfall. We didn't know humans had ships of that size." Del Su smiled slightly. "There are many things about humanity that the galactic community doesn't know, Captain. We prefer it that way. However, recent events have forced us to reconsider our policy of secrecy." "Recent events?" "The Void Syndicate invasion. We've been monitoring Coalition communications. Your species are in trouble." Wu Jin felt a flicker of hope. "Can you help us? Our fleets are being destroyed. We need any assistance we can get. That's why we're here, Captain. But first you need to understand what you're dealing with." The display changed, showing the massive ship emerging from behind Jupiter. Wu Jin gasped as the full scale became apparent. The Indomitable was larger than some space stations. Its hull was a mixture of sleek curves and angular sections. Clearly human in design, but incorporating principles that seemed almost alien. "How is this possible?" Lieutenant Hana whispered. Del Su heard her question through the open channel. My species has been preparing for this day for over a century, Lieutenant. While the galaxy dismissed us as primitive, we were building the most advanced fleet in known space. As if to demonstrate, the Indomitable's hull began to shift and change. Sections that had appeared solid revealed themselves to be armor plating that could slide aside to reveal weapon systems underneath. The ship's surface rippled like liquid metal before settling into a new configuration. Metamaterial armor, Dalsu explained. It can adapt to any threat in real time. Our weapons are equally advanced. Wujin watched in amazement as the ship's sensor arrays extended from hidden compartments. The technology was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Captain Dalsu, how many ships do you have? Wujin asked. That information is classified, Captain, but I can tell you that the Indomitable is just the beginning. A new voice joined the conversation, female, with a slight mechanical quality that suggested an AI interface. This is Chief Technical Officer He Jin, speaking from the Indomitable's main computer core. Captain Wu Jin, your ship's systems are quite primitive by our standards. Would you like a demonstration of our capabilities? Before Wu Jin could respond, his ship's sensors went wild. Every system on the Starfall suddenly operated at peak efficiency. Damaged circuits repaired themselves and power output increased by 30%. What did you do? Wu Jin demanded. We upgraded your systems remotely, He Jin replied calmly. The improvements will last approximately 6 hours. Consider it a gift. Wu Jin looked around his bridge in amazement. Displays that had been flickering for weeks now showed crystal clear images. The air felt cleaner as the life support systems operated better than they had when the ship was new. This is impossible, his engineer reported from the engine room. Our quantum drive is operating at 120% efficiency. I've never seen readings like this. Dalsu appeared on the screen again. Captain, we need to discuss the current tactical situation. How many coalition ships are still operational? Wu Jin hesitated, then decided honesty was the best approach. Less than 1,000 scattered across 6 systems. The Syndicate has overwhelming numerical superiority. And their technology level? Biomechanical ships, adaptive armor, acid-based weapons. They can regenerate damage and their ships seem to learn from our tactics. Dalsu nodded thoughtfully. We've observed their capabilities. Impressive in their own way, but ultimately limited by their biological nature. Limited? Captain, they've destroyed most of our fleet. Because you've been fighting them with conventional weapons, Captain. Biological systems have inherent weaknesses that can be exploited if you understand the underlying principles. The display changed again, showing detailed scans of Syndicate bioships. But these weren't coalition sensor readings. They were far more detailed, showing internal structures and energy flows with impossible clarity. We've been studying them for months, Dalsu explained. Their bioarmor adapts to energy weapons by evolving resistance. But it can't adapt to weapons that attack the fundamental structure of matter itself. What kind of weapons are you talking about? Quantum disruptors, dimensional phasing cannons, reality anchors. Weapons that most species consider theoretical. Wu Jin felt overwhelmed. The humans were discussing technology that coalition scientists had only dreamed about. Captain Dalsu, why are you telling us this? Why reveal yourselves now? Dalsu's expression grew serious. Because, Captain, the Void Syndicate is not your real enemy. They're merely the advanced scouts for something far worse. And when that greater threat arrives, the galaxy will need to be united to survive. What greater threat? That's a conversation for later, Captain. Right now we have a more immediate problem. The Syndicate is preparing a final assault on the Coalition's remaining strongholds. If we're going to act, it has to be now. The display showed tactical projections of Syndicate fleet movements. Their forces were indeed massing for what looked like a decisive strike. What do you propose? Wu Jin asked. We propose to show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of, Captain. But first, you need to contact Admiral Taemin and any other coalition commanders still in the field. Tell them to hold their positions and wait for support. Support from who? Dalsu smiled, but there was something cold and dangerous in his expression. From Earth's children, Captain. We've been hiding in the shadows for a century. But that ends today. It's time for the galaxy to see what happens when humanity stops holding back. The transmission ended, leaving Wu Jin and his crew staring at a blank screen. Around them, the upgraded systems hummed with newfound efficiency. Sir, his communications officer called out, I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the Sol system. It's like the entire system is waking up. Wu Jin nodded grimly. Whatever the humans had been hiding, it was about to be revealed. He just hoped the galaxy was ready for it. Captain Dalsu stood in the command center of the Indomitable, his hands resting on the central control console. Around him, dozens of human officers worked at stations that seemed to blend technology with something approaching art. The air hummed with energy as systems that had waited decades in silence finally came online. All stations. This is Captain Dalsu. Initiate Protocol 7. Authorization code Earthrises. Across the Sol system, those simple words triggered the most massive military awakening in galactic history. On the bridge of the Starfall, Captain Wu Jin watched his sensors go wild as massive energy signatures began appearing throughout human space. What had been empty space moments before now showed dozens of enormous structures. "What are we seeing?" Lieutenant Hana asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "The end of humanity's long secret," replied Dr. Kyung-ho's voice over the communication channel. He appeared on their main screen, an elderly human with kind eyes and a gentle smile. "Captain Wu Jin, this is Dr. Kyung-ho, Chief Scientist of the United Human Space Service. We apologize for the deception, but it was necessary." "What deception?" Wu Jin demanded. "The deception that humanity was primitive, Captain. We've been building the most advanced fleet in the galaxy for over 100 years, hidden in dimensional pockets throughout our solar system." As if to demonstrate, the space around Jupiter began to ripple like water. Massive shipyards emerged from what appeared to be tiers in space itself. Each facility was the size of a small moon, their hulls gleaming with the same metamaterial technology as the Indomitable. "Dimensional engineering," Dr. Kyung-ho explained. "While other species conquered territory, we conquered space itself. Every asteroid, every moon, every empty patch of our system hides production facilities." Wu Jin watched in amazement as ship after ship emerged from the dimensional pockets. First came vessels similar to the Indomitable, massive supercarriers that dwarfed anything the Coalition had ever built. Then came smaller ships, but even these were larger than Coalition battlecruisers. "How many ships do you have?" Wu Jin asked. "Enough," replied Admiral Su Jin, a woman who appeared to be in her 50s with steel-gray hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. She wore the insignia of the highest rank in the human fleet. "Captain Wu Jin, what you're seeing is just our first battle group. We have 12 more like it." The numbers were staggering. Each battle group contained hundreds of ships, from massive supercarriers down to what humans called destroyers, but which were larger than Coalition cruisers. But it wasn't just the size that impressed Wu Jin. It was the technology. As he watched, human ships began demonstrating capabilities that seemed impossible. A destroyer-class vessel suddenly became transparent, phasing through a nearby asteroid as if it were made of air. "Phase shift technology," explained Engineer Bora, a young woman with bright eyes and oil-stained coveralls. "Our ships can shift partially into dimensional space, allowing them to pass through solid matter. Very useful for avoiding enemy fire." A battlecruiser fired a single shot at a distant asteroid. The rock simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but completely removed from reality. "Quantum nullification cannons," Bora continued. "They don't destroy targets, they remove them from the timeline entirely." The target never existed. Wu Jin felt sick. The Coalition had been fighting with energy weapons and missile systems while humanity possessed technology that could erase things from existence itself. "Why?" he asked. "Why did you hide all this? You could have ended the war years ago." Dr. Kyung-ho's expression grew sad. "Because we were waiting for something much worse, Captain. The Void Syndicate is just the beginning. Our deep space monitoring stations detected signs of a threat approaching from beyond this galaxy. Something that makes the Syndicate look like children playing with toys." "What kind of threat?" "Entities that consume entire galaxies, Captain. They turn star systems into quantum void, leaving nothing behind. They've destroyed at least 12 galaxies that we know of, and they're heading this way." The revelation hit Wu Jin like a physical blow. "When?" "Our calculations suggest they'll arrive within 50 years. The galaxy needed to be united and prepared, but your species were too busy fighting each other. The Syndicate invasion was actually useful. It's forcing cooperation." Around them, more human ships continued to emerge from dimensional storage. Wu Jin saw vessels unlike anything in his experience. Ships that seemed to bend light around themselves. Others that appeared to be made of crystallized energy. "Captain Dalsu," Admiral Sujin's voice came over the communication channel. "All battle groups are now active. Phase 2 is complete." "Acknowledged, Admiral." "Begin Phase 3. Reality Anchor Deployment. Wu Jin had never heard the term reality anchor before, but he was about to learn why it was humanity's most devastating weapon against enemies who relied on advanced technology. Throughout the Sol system, massive cylindrical devices began emerging from the larger ships. Each cylinder was about the size of a coalition frigate, covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. Reality anchors, explained Commander Youngie, a woman who appeared to be in her 30s with sharp predatory features. They create fields where only baseline physics operate. No faster-than-light travel, no dimensional technology, no quantum effects beyond the most basic level. What's the point of that? The Void Syndicate's entire strategy depends on hit-and-run tactics using their bio-FTL drives. Within a reality anchor field, they can't escape. They have to fight conventionally. Wu Jin began to understand the genius of humanity's approach. While everyone else had developed more advanced weapons and defenses, humans had developed the ability to force enemies to fight on human terms. "There's more," said Lieutenant Colonel Hansol, a stern-faced man with multiple scars on his hands. "Our ground forces are equipped with similar technology. Power armor that can phase through walls, weapons that fire rounds existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and personal shields that redirect attacks to empty space." "How is any of this possible?" Wu Jin asked. Dr. Kyung-ho smiled. "Human stubbornness, Captain. When the galactic community dismissed us as primitives, we took it as a challenge. Every insult, every rejection, every condescending report about our limited potential became motivation to prove them wrong. But the resources required were obtained through dimensional mining," interrupted Engineer Bora. "We learned to extract materials from parallel dimensions where Earth never developed life. Infinite resources from infinite empty Earths. The scope of human preparation was overwhelming. They had solved problems that other species hadn't even known existed." "Captain Wu Jin," Admiral Su Jin addressed him directly, "we need you to carry a message to Admiral Taman and any other coalition commanders still in the field." "What message?" "Tell them that help is coming. Tell them that Earth's children have been preparing for this moment for over a century. And we're finally ready to show the galaxy what humanity can do when we stop hiding." Around them, the human fleet continued to grow as more ships emerged from dimensional storage. The Indomitable itself was revealed to be just one of 12 supercarriers, each one capable of carrying thousands of smaller vessels. "How long before you can engage the Syndicate?" Wu Jin asked. Captain Dalsu checked his tactical displays. "We can begin our counterattack in 6 hours, Captain. But first we need to coordinate with your remaining forces. This won't work unless the Coalition and humanity fight as one. The Coalition races have never successfully coordinated their fleets," Wu Jin warned. "Too many different technologies and tactical doctrines. That's why we've prepared standardization protocols," said Chief Technical Officer Hyejin. "We can upgrade Coalition vessels to interface with our command networks. Not to the level of our own ships, but enough to create unified tactical coordination." Wu Jin looked around at his bridge, still humming with the improvements the humans had made. If they could do that remotely in minutes, what could they accomplish with direct access? "What do you need from us?" he asked. "Just trust, Captain," Admiral Su Jin replied. "Trust that humanity knows what we're doing. We've had a century to plan this moment, and we're not going to waste it." As if to emphasize her point, one of the human supercarriers opened its massive launch bays. Thousands of fighter craft poured out, each one phasing in and out of visible spectrum as they formed up in perfect tactical formations. Wu Jin realized he was watching the emergence of a power that would reshape the galaxy forever. The question was whether the rest of the galaxy would accept humanity's help, or whether old prejudices would prevent the cooperation needed to face the coming darkness. The planet Centauri Prime burned beneath a sky filled with alien ships. For 3 days, the Void Syndicate's biomechanical dreadnoughts had pounded the world's defenses, while Coalition forces fought a desperate holding action. Admiral Taman's remaining 30 ships hung in orbit, their hulls scorched and their crews exhausted. "Sir, we've lost contact with Defense Platform 7, reported his communications officer. "The Syndicate acid ships have breached the outer perimeter." Taman stared at the tactical display with grim resignation. Red enemy markers outnumbered his blue Coalition forces 8-1. Every minute brought reports of more damage, more casualties, more positions overrun. "How many evacuation ships made it off-world?" he asked. Approximately 40% of the civilian population, sir. The rest are trapped in the underground shelters. 40%. Millions dead or doomed, and there was nothing he could do about it. The Syndicate bioships had adapted to every weapon the Coalition possessed. Their living hulls absorbed energy blasts and deflected kinetic rounds. Worse, they seemed to learn from each engagement, becoming harder to kill with every passing hour. Sir, his sensor officer's voice cracked with excitement. I'm detecting massive hyperspace signatures. Something big is coming in system. Taemin felt a flicker of hope. Reinforcements? Unknown, sir. The energy signature is unlike anything in our databases. The main view screen showed empty space for a moment. Then reality seemed to tear open, revealing a tunnel of swirling light and impossible geometry. From this dimensional rift emerged a ship so large it blotted out the stars behind it. By all the gods of Space Ken, whispered Lieutenant Hana from her position at the tactical station. The Indomitable dropped into normal space with a grace that defied its massive size. 30 kilometers of gleaming hull, bristling with weapon systems that hurt to look at directly. Behind it came more ships, dozens, then hundreds, all bearing the same strange mix of familiar and alien design elements. Coalition vessels. This is Captain Dalsu of the United Human Space Service ship Indomitable. We're here to assist. Admiral Taemin found his voice with effort. Captain Dalsu, this is Admiral Taemin commanding Coalition Defense Force Centauri. We welcome any assistance you can provide. Admiral, please have your ships fall back to minimum safe distance. What you're about to witness may be disturbing to those unfamiliar with advanced dimensional warfare. Taemin didn't argue. His ships pulled back as the human fleet moved into position above Centauri Prime. What followed was not a battle. It was a demonstration of power that redefined everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. The Syndicate bioships immediately turned their attention to the new arrivals. Streams of acid and bioplasma lanced out toward the human vessels. The attack struck the Indomitable's hull and simply stopped. The acid splashed harmlessly against armor that rippled and adapted, neutralizing the corrosive agents before they could cause damage. Reality anchor deployment in 3, 2, 1, mark, announced Captain Dalsu. Throughout the human fleet, the cylindrical devices that Captain Wu Jin had seen earlier began to glow with harsh white light. Space itself seemed to crystallize around them, taking on a rigid quality that made the stars look different. The effect on the Syndicate fleet was immediate and devastating. Their bioships, which had been darting around the battlefield using organic FTL drives, suddenly found themselves trapped in normal space. Their adaptive hulls began to malfunction as the quantum effects they relied on were suppressed. What did you do to them? Taemin asked over the communication channel. We leveled the playing field, Admiral, replied Commander Young-A from her position aboard a human battlecruiser. The Syndicate's entire tactical doctrine depends on superior mobility and adaptive technology. Take that away and they're just big, ugly targets. As if to prove her point, the human ships opened fire. The weapons were unlike anything Taemin had ever seen. Beams of coherent light that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously struck the Syndicate dreadnoughts. The bioship's adaptive armor tried to respond. But how do you adapt to an attack that hits you in 3 different realities at once? The largest Syndicate vessel, a kilometer-long behemoth that had been leading the assault on Centauri Prime, simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, firing acid streams at the human fleet. The next moment, there was only empty space where it had been. Quantum nullification, explained Engineer Bora's voice over the tactical channel. The target is removed from the timeline entirely. It never existed, so there's no wreckage, no debris, no evidence it was ever there. More human weapons fired. A squadron of Syndicate biofighters found themselves frozen in place, as localized time fields slowed them to a crawl. Human fighters, sleek craft that phased in and out of visibility, swarmed around them like predators, around helpless prey. Taemin watched in amazement as the human fighters performed maneuvers that violated every law of physics he understood. They dove through solid asteroids, appeared behind enemy ships without traveling through the intervening space, and fired weapons that seemed to bend causality itself. How are they doing that? Asked Lieutenant Hana. Multi-dimensional flight systems, replied Lieutenant Colonel Hansol. Our fighters exist in several realities simultaneously. They can phase into dimensional space, move to a new position, then phase back into normal reality. To enemies, it looks like teleportation. The battle, if it could even be called that, continued for another 20 minutes. Every time the Syndicate tried a new tactic, the human fleet countered it effortlessly. Bioships that tried to regenerate damage found their healing processes reversed by temporal manipulation. Acid weapons turned back on their own ships by dimensional mirrors. Adaptive armor that tried to evolve new defenses found itself locked into maladaptive configurations by quantum interference. The few Syndicate vessels that tried to retreat discovered they couldn't. The reality anchors had created a zone where faster-than-light travel was impossible. They were trapped with an enemy that had spent over a century preparing for exactly this type of engagement. Admiral Tae-min. Captain Dal-Su's voice cut through the tactical chatter. We're detecting Syndicate biotroops attempting to land on Centauri Prime's surface. We're deploying ground forces to assist your people. Tae-min watched his sensors, a small craft launched from the human ships. These weren't the massive assault shuttles the Coalition used, but sleek dropships that seemed to bend light around themselves. Ground Team Alpha. This is Lieutenant Colonel Han Sol. We're approaching Landing Zone Bravo. Remember, the civilians down there have never seen our technology. Try not to traumatize them too badly. The dropships disappeared from sensors as they entered Centauri Prime's atmosphere. Minutes later, reports began coming in from the planet's surface. This is impossible, radioed Coalition Ground Commander Park Soo from one of the underground shelters. The human soldiers. They're moving through solid walls. Their weapons fire rounds that curve around corners. And their armor. It's like they're walking inside personal force fields. Through his tactical link, Tae-min could see what the ground commander was describing. Human soldiers in sleek power armor moved through the battlefield like ghosts. Syndicate biotroops, each one 3 meters tall and armed with organic weapons, fell before them like wheat before a scythe. The humans fought with cold efficiency that was somehow more terrifying than any display of rage. Their weapons fired rounds that existed in multiple dimensions, making them impossible to dodge or block. Their armor phased between solid and intangible states, allowing them to ignore enemy attacks while delivering devastating counterstrikes. Coalition forces, announced Admiral Soo-jin from the command bridge of her supercarrier. This is Admiral Soo-jin of the United Human Space Service. The Syndicate assault on Centauri Prime has been neutralized. We are now deploying humanitarian aid to assist with civilian evacuation and medical treatment. The speed of it all left Tae-min reeling. In less than an hour, a human fleet had completely destroyed a Syndicate force that had been winning for 3 days. Not just defeated, annihilated so thoroughly that barely any trace remained. Captain Dal-Su, Tae-min called over the communication channel. How is this possible? The Syndicate ships we've been fighting, we've hit them with everything we had and they just adapted. Admiral, your weapons operate on principles the Syndicate understands, Dal-Su replied. Energy and matter cause and effect, linear time. Their biotechnology is designed to adapt to such attacks. Our weapons operate on principles that biological systems cannot comprehend, let alone adapt to. Such as attacks that hit targets before they're fired, weapons that exist in multiple realities simultaneously, armor that shifts into dimensions where the attacks never happened. The Syndicate's evolutionary approach breaks down when faced with technology that operates outside the normal rules of cause and effect. As the last Syndicate bioship was removed from existence, Tae-min realized he was witnessing a turning point in galactic history. Humanity had not just won a battle, they had demonstrated that the seemingly unstoppable Syndicate could be stopped. More than that, they had shown that the galaxy's understanding of warfare itself was hopelessly outdated. What happens now? Tae-min asked. Now, Admiral, Captain Dal-Su replied. We prepare for the real. The great assembly hall of the Galactic Council had never hosted a gathering quite like this one. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the vast chamber, their voices creating a buzz of nervous energy that vibrated through the crystalline walls. At the center of it all stood Admiral Dal-Su, his human uniform looking strangely simple among the elaborate robes and ceremonial armor of galactic dignitaries. 3 months had passed since the devastating human counterstrike against the Void Syndicate. The news had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Earth's supposedly primitive children had destroyed the unstoppable biofleet in a matter of hours. Now every species wanted answers. Honored delegates, Dal-Su began. his voice carrying clearly through the hall's acoustics. I stand before you today not as a conqueror, but as a messenger. What you have witnessed, humanity's sudden emergence as a galactic power, was never about dominance or revenge. Counselor Yiltar of the Christine Hegemony stood up, his blue crystal body reflecting light in sharp patterns. Admiral Dalsu, your species was classified as barely space-capable less than a year ago. Now you possess technology that makes our most advanced science look primitive. How do you explain this deception? Dalsu nodded calmly. The deception was necessary. Counselor, Dr. Inzu, our chief xenobiologist, will explain why. A middle-aged human woman stepped forward, carrying a holographic projector. Dr. Insu had spent decades studying alien life forms, but her current expression was grave in a way that made the assembled delegates uncomfortable. Honored representatives, she began, what I'm about to show you will change your understanding of our galaxy's position in the universe. The hologram activated, showing a three-dimensional map of local galactic space, points of light marked inhabited worlds, trade routes, and the boundaries of various species' territories. This is our galaxy as we know it, Dr. Insu continued. Approximately 400 billion stars, supporting thousands of intelligent species across several million inhabited worlds. It represents the sum total of galactic civilization. The image zoomed out, showing their galaxy as just one spiral among many. Then it zoomed out further, revealing galaxy clusters and vast stretches of empty space. This is the local galactic group, Dr. Insu said. 47 galaxies, most of them supporting life of some kind. And this, the image changed, showing a different view of the same region. Where galaxies should have been, there was nothing but empty darkness. This is what the same region looked like 50 million years ago. A shocked silence filled the chamber. Counselor Yiltar's crystal body flickered with nervous energy. What happened to them? They were consumed, Dr. Insu replied simply. Something came from the void between galactic superclusters and devoured entire galaxies, leaving nothing but quantum emptiness behind. Captain Yunji, the human fleet's intelligence chief, stepped forward. We call them the Devourers. Our deep space monitoring stations detected the first signs of their approach 60 years ago. They move slowly by galactic standards, but they're heading directly for our local group. The hologram showed movement patterns, vast dark shapes moving through the cosmic void toward their galaxy cluster. How long do we have? Asked Representative Morhan of the Ethereal Collective, her translucent form shimmering with anxiety. 47 years until they reach the outer galaxies in our local group, Captain Yunji replied. Perhaps 52 years until they reach us directly. Commander Jae-sung moved to stand beside his colleagues. This is why humanity remained hidden for so long. We knew that the galaxy's fractured political structure would never allow for the kind of unified defense necessary to face this threat. You knew about this for 60 years and said nothing? Demanded Chancellor Kixfor of the militant states, his scaled hide flushing with angry red patterns. Would you have believed us? Dalsu asked quietly. A primitive species warning about cosmic threats beyond galactic comprehension. Would the Galactic Council have taken emergency action? Or would there have been decades of debate and committee meetings while the threat approached? The silence that followed was answer enough. Dr. Insu reactivated the hologram, this time showing detailed scans of the approaching entities. The Devourers are not biological in any sense we understand. They appear to be constructs of dark matter and exotic energy, existing partially outside normal space-time. They convert entire star systems into nothing, not just destroyed, completely removed from existence. What do they want? Asked Prime Speaker Velneth of the Harmony Worlds. Unknown, Dr. Insu admitted. They don't communicate, don't negotiate, don't seem to have any purpose beyond consumption. They simply arrive, devour everything, and move on to the next galaxy. Captain Unji stepped forward again. However, we have discovered something important. They can be fought. Our analysis of the consumption patterns shows that some galaxies lasted longer than others. The ones with highly advanced unified civilizations managed to slow the Devourers' progress significantly. How significantly? Asked Counselor Yiltar. In 2 cases long enough for intelligent life to escape to other galaxies entirely. The implications hung in the air like a physical weight. Representative Morhan was the first to speak. You're suggesting we evacuate our entire galactic civilization? We're suggesting we prepare for every possibility, Dalsu replied. Evacuation is one option. Direct confrontation is another. But both require a level of technological advancement and unified command structure that the current galactic political system cannot provide. Commander Jae-sung activated a new holographic display. This is why humanity developed what we call the Unification Protocol. Technology and infrastructure designed to integrate every spacefaring species into a single, coordinated defense network. The display showed technical specifications that made several delegates gasp in amazement. Quantum communication networks that could coordinate fleets across the entire galaxy instantly. Standardized technology packages that could upgrade any species' ships to interface with unified command systems. Most impressively, dimensional fortress stations that could create stable safe zones around entire star systems. We've spent a century building the infrastructure for this, Commander Jae-sung continued. Hidden bases throughout the galaxy, quantum communication relays in every major system, manufacturing facilities capable of upgrading millions of ships to unified standards. All hidden from us, Chancellor Kixvor observed, his anger now mixed with grudging respect. Because we needed to be sure it would work before revealing it, Dalsu explained. The Void Syndicate invasion was actually useful. It demonstrated both the need for unity and the effectiveness of our coordination protocols. Dr. Insu stepped forward again. Delegates, humanity is not asking you to surrender your sovereignty or abandon your cultures. We're asking you to survive. The Devourers don't care about your political systems or territorial disputes. They only care about consumption. What exactly are you proposing? Asked Prime Speaker Velneth. The formation of the Unified Defense Force, Dalsu announced. A combined fleet representing every spacefaring species, equipped with standardized technology and operating under unified command protocols. Not a permanent government, but a temporary military alliance designed for one purpose, stopping the Devourers. Under human command? No doubt, Chancellor Kixvor said suspiciously. Under joint command, Dalsu corrected. Humans will contribute our technology and coordination systems, but leadership will be shared among all participating species based on merit and expertise, not species or politics. Captain Yunji activated another display, showing proposed fleet structures and command hierarchies. Every species will maintain their traditional forces for internal security and local conflicts. The UDF will be an additional layer, specifically designed for galactic-scale threats. And if we refuse? Asked Counselor Yiltar. The humans exchanged glances. Dr. Insu spoke carefully. Then you'll face the Devourers with current technology and coordination levels. Based on our analysis of previous galaxy consumption patterns, current galactic civilization would last approximately 18 months after first contact. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. 18 months for an entire galactic civilization to be consumed was almost incomprehensible. Dalsu raised his hand for silence. Delegates, I want to be absolutely clear about something. Humanity could survive the Devourers alone. Our dimensional technology allows us to evacuate our entire species to parallel realities if necessary. We're not doing this to save ourselves, then why? Asked Representative Morhan. Dalsu looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from dozens of different species. Because after a century of hiding, we've learned something important about humanity. We're not just another species competing for resources. We're builders, protectors, problem solvers. We don't want to be the only intelligence left in the universe because we were too paranoid to help others. We're offering partnership, added Captain Yunji. Human technology combined with galactic diversity and experience. Together, we might not just survive the Devourers, we might actually stop them permanently. The chamber fell silent as the delegates contemplated the magnitude of what they were being offered. Survival.